Well, hello and welcome to Brian Hornback Podcast. This is episode 24. Hope you're having a good week. It is this one's being recorded midweek, and so let's just get right into it. First of all, apologies to Amelia Parker. On the last podcast, episode 23, which was last week, I had said, talked about how she had tied in a previous race and how she had ran as a write-in, and then how she ran in 2019, and I guess I had indicated that she came in second in the at-large race with three or four other candidates. She contacted me, and she won the primary and the general. So, apologies to Amelia. I should have looked at that, but as we all know, I have a tendency to kind of talk without notes. And so that's kind of what happened. So my apologies. Kudos, as usual, to Amelia for pulling that win off. A win that a lot of people didn't think she could make it. And she was outspent considerably by more than one opponent in that race, and she's doing the job that she was elected to do, and so kudos to her for asking the tough questions and being resilient and not giving up. I may not agree with somebody 100% of the time because I don't agree with myself 100% of the time, but if you ask questions, if you do your homework, I'm all about it. Because when I served, that's what I did. I read the agendas. I knew what was going on. One thing that the superintendent that I served with, he and I didn't necessarily agree on a lot of things. But probably one of the greatest compliments I ever got is that he told his staff that if Brian Hornback asked a question at a board meeting, give him the answer because he already knows the answer before he asks you the question. And that's true. And that's kind of how this blog has operated. I make sure that I've got, as accurate information as I can have and put it out there for you. But again, let's get started. Again, kudos to Amelia. But let's get started. I on the blog, brianhornback.com, for those of you that are new, brianhornback.com is been in operation for about 16 years. This podcast is just another outgrowth of that blog. And I promise, I know I say this about every week, but we're going to get more regular, and there's going to be more and more podcasts to start popping in here. But listen to I guess he's a libertarian-leaning podcast today, kind of based here in Knoxville, Tennessee, where I'm based out of. Almost in agreement. He had done an interview with Chris Davis, the elections administrator, and they got to talking about how, and they talked about the city of Knoxville elections because we got those coming up this year, and then they talked about the county elections, and they talked about how the primaries operate on these nonpartisan city races versus the county races, and they talked about the school board, and they talked about how in Knox County there's a provision where the school board candidates will run like this in 22. The school board races that are up will run in the primary, in the May 3rd, 2022 primary. Those school board races will be on the ballot. If somebody gets 50% plus one, then they're on the general election ballot in August, unopposed. Now, if they no one gets 50%, let's say there's 4 candidates in the race, and nobody gets 50% plus one, then there's a runoff. And there's been several runoffs. India Kincannon and Patsy Vidito in the 2nd District was a runoff. I'm sure I'm going to leave one out here. Doug Harris and Gina Oster was a runoff. And so there's been several runoffs, okay? Terry Hill and can't remember the lady that ran against, that came in second or came in and had a runoff with Terry Hill for his school board. But anyway, so there's been a few of those. And one of the things that they talked about on Almost an Agreement was they weren't sure how that came to be, because Chris and Seth hadn't obviously been around. But that's called the Diane Dozier. Diane Dozier was elected to the Knox County Knox County School Board in 1998. I was elected to school board in 2000, and so I served for 4 years with Diane, because she got reelected in 2002. In 2002. And so for the 4 years I served on the school board, I served with Diane Dozier. But Diane was elected in 1998. It was a crowded primary. There was a principal in the race. There were several, 2 or 3 other people in the race, and Diane got less than a majority, but was elected, because when the state, in about 92, I believe it was, when the education reform happened in Tennessee, they took away the elected superintendent, and they put that all. They made the superintendent of schools an appointed position by the school board, and they removed what they said was going to remove politics from schools and school boards, and made it nonpartisan. And so in 1998, when Diane Dozier got elected with less than a majority, some of the state legislators went back to Nashville and tried to put in, for years, the legislature tried to put back in the partisan part, whether you have to run as a Republican or a Democrat. And then they also went then back to Nashville and worked to get a primary where somebody'd have to have a majority of votes. And what they actually wound up passing was what we call a permissive bill. So if a county chose to do it, then they would have a primary for their school board. And Knox County Commission, I think, had asked for I believe they were the ones that asked the legislature for it. And so the county commission, the Knox County Commission, back sometime in 1999, 2000, made that provision. Both the legislature gave the ability to do that, and the county commission then implemented it. So Knox County, out of about 100, when I was on the school board in 2000, 2004, there was about 126 school systems across the state. There's 95 counties in Tennessee. There's about, at one time, like I said, when I was on the board, it was about 126. I think that may have changed a little bit more, public school systems. But Knox County is the only one that has the runoff provision. And so that's the reason it was done, is because Diane Dozier was elected by less than 50% of the vote. So there you go. There's the institutional knowledge and whatnot. So let's see what's happened since the last time I was on here. Knox County Commission has voted to make the Board of Health advisory to the health director, Dr. Martha Buchanan. Not a surprise there. So how did we get here? Obviously, pandemic is how we got here, but how did we get here where County Commission would strip the Board of Health of its authority? Well, it started out, really, things ratcheted up. There was a lot of talk, a lot of political talk about an unelected board. Mayor Jacobs and State Representative Jason Zachary had really talked about that a lot. Really just hyper partisanship, really. And then as Mayor Jacobs had to deal with the Board of Health, being an actual member of the Board of Health, he really backed off of that some. But it's not lost in the fact that Jason Zachary, state representative, and Mayor Jacobs had produced a video which really kind of incensed and highlighted and really got the Board of Health back on their heels. That was in like October-ish. So then in November, the Board of Health comes and Dr. Pat O'Brien comes with an might have been December, but he came with a proposal that he wanted to ask Governor Bill Lee to give them all the counties that touch Knox County. Well, obviously, those counties, Loudoun in particular, Loudoun County Commission passed an ordinance saying no, we're not, we're not going to answer to this unelected board. So what was already a political issue in Knox County became even a more intensive political issue when you have 10 or 11 counties now feeling like somebody's infringing on their turf. And so that happened. We had the spikes in November, December, but it was going to come to a vote, a final second vote in January. Things had really ratcheted up. Trump was going out, Biden was coming in, and the New Year's, the influx of COVID didn't really happen in January. And so, the commission kind of kicked the can down the road. Probably wasn't a great idea, but they did. They said, hey, we're going to kick the can down the road. We'll bring it back in April. Fast forward, through February, and then here we are in March. It looked like through interviews that Jason Zachary had done in the local media, he was bargaining his legislation about the Board of Health. It wasn't going to be exactly like he had said it was going to be. He admitted that in the media. Glenn Jacobs had done an interview with WBR on Inside Tennessee. Again, he recognized that Zachary wasn't going to be able to deliver on what Zachary had promised. And then somehow Dr. Richard Briggs, who had actually killed Zachary's bill back last summer, responds to an email and says that the county can do this by Friday. They can either disband the Board of Health or they can replace the members of the Board of Health. Well, at that point, one of the doctors, who also serves as a state senator, had basically thrown in the towel and said, hey, it's the county's decision. It's not the state's decision. So I think from the county commission's perspective, the votes that appeared to be there in January were still there. Commissioner Richie Beeler from out in East Knox County asked the week before the March meeting at the workshop to bring it up for a second vote. There really wasn't any discussion on the night of the commission vote. The only person that talked was the chairman. There were 3 people that voted against disbanding the Board of Health: the chairman, Larson J., Dr. Daisha Lundy from the 1st District, and Courtney Durrett from the 2nd District. Both Lundy and Durrett didn't say anything. They just cast their votes. Jay made some really, really weird comments. Again, just some of the same things he had said before. Cast some aspersions and some allegations of what he thinks is going to happen. He thinks that these people are now going to turn on Dr. Buchanan. I don't see that happening. Those people have said they haven't, but you know what? I've been doing politics for a number of years, since I was about 16 years old, and I'm not necessarily an old man, but I've been around a few years. Politicians have a tendency to lie, and it's possible, but I just don't see it happening necessarily. Dr. Buchanan can't be replaced just by Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Obviously, Mayor Jacobs has a certain amount of say in it, but also Dr. Piercy or whoever Dr. Piercy today, whoever runs the state Department of Health, also has a lot of say in who our health director is in Knox County. So both of them have to sign off on it, which Dr. Piercy works for the governor. So you've got some checks and balances from the county and the state. Dr. Buchanan, in my opinion, is not going anywhere. The mask mandates aren't going to go anywhere. The curfews, I think we're at 1 o'clock now, 1 a.m. now in Knox County. It's not going anywhere unless, of course, COVID spikes again. And then, Dr. Buchanan, by working with the Board of Health, can impose new requirements. So, it's not, again, one of the reasons that I don't argue about mask yet, for mask or against mask, or for curfew against curfew, for vaccine against vaccine, is because I just don't think it's worth fighting about. There's a lot of things to fight about. That's just not one of them. If I want to wear a mask, I have the civil right and the civil liberties to do that. If you don't want to wear a mask, you have the civil right, you have the civil liberties not to wear a mask. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm not going to look at you strangely if you're not wearing a mask. I see people not wearing masks every day. It doesn't matter to me that you're not wearing a mask. So be it. So again, I think that gets back to whatever the civil liberty or civil right issue is. Again, not worth fighting about. Get the vaccine if you want the vaccine. Don't get the vaccine if you don't want to get the vaccine. It don't matter, really. In the grand scheme of things, it don't matter. So that's kind of where we're at with the Board of Health and all those things. And so, again, maybe cooler heads will prevail at some point, but vaccines are going up. I read recently about 25% of folks in Knox County have at least had one, and about 15% I think have had both. So hey, it's a great thing. But anyway, I think that's going to bring us to just about a close. I talked to you about the reason we have runoffs for school board. We've talked about the Board of Health. Hopefully we'll get back to talking about something else other than the Board of Health. Everybody just stay safe out there. Be kind to one another. And we'll get through this. I do want to say that this is Wednesday before Easter when I'm recording this podcast. So tomorrow is Maundy Thursday. Friday is Good Friday. And for those of us who are Christians, that means that that Christ was put to death on Friday, but Sunday's coming. So Easter is a very solemn Christian holiday. And, I think as we approach Christ, the observance of Christ's arrest on Thursday and the trial that he was put through on Thursday, and then he was put to death on Friday, but Sunday's coming. So anyway, it is a solemn time, and for those of you that have Good Friday, or I think now they call it spring holiday, off, then hope you take some time to reflect on that if you're a Christian. And if you're not, hey, enjoy the day off. Enjoy the spring weather. Although tonight it's going to get cold here in Knoxville again, and it's been raining all day pretty much. So anyway, that is where we're at, and I hope you have a great weekend, and hope to be back with you here pretty soon. But just continue to check out brianhornback.com, and thank you for listening to the Brian Hornback podcast. It is on YouTube. It is on all your podcast streaming services, or at least most of them anyway. If there's one that I'm not on, let me know about it, and I'll look into it. You can send me an email at brian@brianhornback.com. That's BRIAN at Brian Hornback, BrianHornback.com. And also look for me on Twitter, either at Mega